All right, good morning, everyone. Today is August 3. This is the bi-weekly meeting of the Kubernetes Storage Special Interest Group. As a reminder, this meeting is public and recorded and posted on YouTube. We're going to switch over to the agenda. If you have anything to discuss, please add it to the agenda and we can discuss it during the meeting. First item on the agenda today is going over status updates for the features that are planned for this quarter. Get this out of the way. I'm just going to go over the items very quickly, and if you have a status update, please shout out. CSI design is currently in progress. As a reminder to everyone, feature freeze was this past Tuesday. That means that every feature that is supposed to be part of 1.8 should already have a feature repo bug open in the feature repository. If there's a new feature that did not make this deadline, it's going to be difficult to get it into 1.8. Looks like all the features that we were tracking that needed a feature repo bug have an associated bug. And the code freeze deadline will be the end of this month, end of August for 1.8. So for CSI, it's a work in progress. No updates here. Capacity isolation resource management. Jing, are you on the line? We're going to skip over that. Looks like Jing's not here yet. Local persistent storage support. Michelle, do you want to give an update?
Yeah. So I have been working on a prototype, and I've been able to make good progress on the prototype. So hopefully by next week, I can come out with a detailed proposal, and I'll send it out to the group.
Awesome. Next up is block volume support. Erin, do you want to give an update?
Yep, so I have the design proposal out there. I've had several comments, but I didn't have the other SIGs marked properly, so I'm waiting to hear their input from Node, API, and I forget the other. And then once that's approved, we're going to break it out amongst three of us and get started on it. I hope also to have a prototype next week,
Awesome.
leveraging a GCE volume, just using it as a raw device. So that's where we stand.
Cool. Sounds good. Let me know if you need help escalating to any of those SIGs.
Thanks.
Next up, enabling containerization of mount dependencies. Jan, do you want to give an update here?
I'm slowly progressing with the proposal. It's again stuck on SIG node, but the team is responding very frequently.
Cool. So as an update, we met up last week, and we are pretty much signed off on the SIG storage side. SIG node had some remaining open questions, but it's looking good.
Yeah.
Next up, testing. Aaron or Jeff, do you guys want to give an update?
I guess Jeff isn't on. Testing, I think we've pretty much wrapped up any of the major things done. Last week, one of the last PRs was merged. So now the effort starts to engage the CNCF. I got to reach back out to them to get information on getting the shared environment. So that's
awesome.
This generalized one can probably be set to done, and then we need to maybe add a line to this CNCF testing environment and assign that to me, please.
Okay. Feel free to go ahead and edit it yourself. I'm just going to create a quick entry here.
Okay, yeah, I'll update the other lines. Thank you.
Cool. Next up, supporting attach-detach for RWO volumes such as iSCSI, Fiber Channel, and RBD.
Yeah, so the Fiber Channel is one. The Fiber Channel one is merged. We got a volunteer, Nathaniel, to work on iSCSI path, and RBD we have to reconsider because it requires a dependency on the RBD utility on the controller. So that's probably just put this on the shelf for a while until we have further resolution. But the current status, we have a Fiber Channel already, and iSCSI is coming next.
Okay.
There's some photos. Maybe ask you for review, but
okay. Yeah, feel free to ping me directly on Slack. And let's make sure that for the 2 changes that we've made for iSCSI and Fiber Channel, that there is extensive testing done to prevent regressions. Adding in an detached controller path changes the logic considerably. So let's just make sure we don't break anything.
Sure.
Cool. Thank you. Volume plugin metrics, Hamad?
Amongst his own vacation, he's going to have a baby, actually.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Congrats to him.
I think Yang, or either Yang or Matthew, is taking up his work for now.
Yeah, I have a PR open.
Okay, so that was Matt. Matt says there's a PR open. Matt, do you know what the status of that is? Is it blocked on anything?
Just needs review.
Okay, so we'll leave that pending for now. NFS wedging issue tests. I imagine that hasn't been started yet.
I think Scott or Jeff has floated some ideas at least.
Okay.
You could just follow up later.
Got it. Snapshots, Tomas or Jing?
Hello?
Yeah.
Okay, so Jim, go ahead.
So yeah, we just sync up like early this week and discuss a few items related to design, like API. And I also have a controller proposal. So because currently the current prototype might not cover all the cases. And we plan to discuss and hopefully to make a change on the controller side. And then we also have a few like GKE AWS plugin Cinder, so we can start testing them on real workload.
Okay, cool. So it seems like it's on track for 1.8.
Hopefully.
Cool.
You have anything, Thomas, to add?
No, not really. I think you covered the.
Okay.
All right, great. Next up, resizing volume support. Does somebody want to give an update for Hamad?
I feel like we are still like trying to figure out because we add this resize operation and how cooperate with other like volume operation to avoid data corruption while it is resizing or while it is changing the file system size to avoid doing other operations.
So I believe we have PR for this too, and it's just a matter of feedback on it and incorporating it, right?
Yeah. So I remember we had a meeting about this. Hamad organized it, and there were some open questions. He was in the process of addressing them. I don't remember what the latest status of those open questions was.
I think we roughly like discussed a little bit, but not in very detail on Slack. But we can follow up.
Okay.
I'll add the PR to this, and then maybe others can come in and start reviewing it.
Cool. Sounds good. So, Brad, you're going to pick it up for Hamad?
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Next up, exposing storage class parameters to end users. Jan organized a meeting about this last week, and to try to see where we are, whether everyone agrees on the design and that kind of thing. What we had consensus on was that everyone kind of agreed that this would be a cool feature to have, but we couldn't get anybody to pick it up and volunteer to drive it to a design or drive the design, at least not for this quarter. So what we're going to do is deprioritize this for this quarter and maybe pick it up in the subsequent quarters. Next up is improving flex volume deployment. Cheng, do you have any updates on this?
Hi, this is Steve. I've been working with Chen on this issue. I think he has a work in progress PR already submitted, but
Okay.
he's still working on it.
Awesome. All right, thanks for the update, Steve. Fix broken volume reconstruction, Chakri. Are you on the line? He is not. Is anybody working with Chakri on this? Okay. I think we should follow up with this one offline to make sure that we are making traction. Code freeze is in a month. And I really want to make sure that we fix this. This has been a thorn in our side for a long time. Next up is the host path volume type. Last I checked on this, Tim was driving the code reviews. Is anybody from that project on the line to give an update? Okay, we'll leave that as is. Mount options to GA. Anybody want to give an update on Hamad's behalf?
There's a PR for this.
Okay, and I believe the design's already been approved, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Is somebody going to pick up the PR while Hamad is gone?
Yes. You can put me on there.
Okay. Brad, could you add yourself on that? That way we could poke you next time.
Sure.
Thank you. Persistent volume source API refactoring for iSCSI, GlusterFS, RBD, CephFS, and Azure file, etc.
Yeah, so Jordan had a review on it, and he proposed a new API object because we had the background is that when we convert the PV source, we had an API breaking compatibility issue. Mm-hmm. So Jordan proposed that to make the API consistent across the different versions, we have to make up a new secret reference object that will give you the same API compatibility. But that idea is floated to the API review teams. We haven't got a confirmation yet. I think that's a good idea, but confirmation is required. So a big change. We don't want to go back and forth.
Okay, I'm just going to take a note to make sure I follow up on this design.
Thanks.
Like something I should be taking.
So that's just on the CephFS API refactoring.
So current status is work in progress?
Yes.
Are any of the PRs out, or is it just the design phase?
I can update the spreadsheet with the PR.
Okay. All right, cool. Next up, allow configuration of reclaim policy in storage class. Matt Wong.
I think it was merged.
This was merged. Okay.
No, not yet.
Oh.
Not yet.
Was the design merged and the PR is outstanding, or?
It was for rebase. Sorry. But
Okay.
we have a PR and it's LGTM.
Okay, cool. So very close to completion. Expose storage metrics, Jing or Vihab?
I just sent out the proposal out to the community, and I want to get some feedback. And I think so. He's also trying to look at the proposal and work on it, right? Is camera here or?
Yeah, I'm here. I'm looking at the volume, the PVC portion of it, of the proposal, which is getting the PVC information into the metrics. And then I think we need feedback on the second half, which is how to get the metrics out. Or
Okay.
where to push them?
If it would be worthwhile, I was thinking maybe you could set a separate meeting, maybe early next week, to just go over this design. I think that's helped a lot of other designs move forward, where they set aside an hour and just invite everybody from the storage SIG and discuss the design and see where it goes from there.
Yeah, that's good. So we can do that.
Okay.
And like if we have time, I probably just describe the overall idea like in this meeting. And
sure, yeah. If we have some time, we can definitely do that.
Okay.
Okay. So next up are the Rook Volume and Nutanix Volume plugins. Both of these are targeting flex volumes now, which means that they're out of tree and don't necessarily need to be tracked as part of this milestone. I spoke with Saad offline, and he's okay with closing the feature bug for this milestone. For Rook, speaking with Steve and Bassam, we are going to leave this feature issue open for now. They are working on the flex volume implementation, and hopefully that goes through. Steve, do you want to add anything else?
Yeah, there is some open question that I do have using the flex approach that I've been seeing because I've been working in parallel with Cheng and try to see if this method is suffice for us. But we can talk about it after you're done with the planning.
Sure, sounds good. Next, all the rest of these items are low rated or low priority. Prevent the deletion of a PVC that is referenced by an active pod. This was a bug that we wanted to fix. Well, it's not necessarily a bug. It was the feature behavior that we wanted to change. And I think Ian from Salesforce started taking a look at this design. There were 3 or 4 potential ways to implement this. There was some debate about what the best way to move that forward was. This was a debate between multiple SIGs, so it was progressing very slowly. I added it here in case we want to pick it up for this milestone. I don't know if Ian's on the line and can give an update or whether he's still actively working on it or not.
Yeah, I'm on here, and I've continued to think about this. There are a few references added after we discussed the different designs. It looks like the finalizer approach is the appropriate design based upon the community and the different SIGs involved. But how we get that information that's going to be used in the finalizer about the status of a particular PVC and its PV, I think that's still an open item. So there's some parts of the design that I think we have agreed upon and parts that aren't. And there were some open items that were going to help, but it looks like those were closed. Like Matt had one open about giving read-write to PV node affinity. So I think it's right to just keep this in the backlog for the time being. And I'm kind of keeping my eye out for areas that are things we could leverage and looking at the finalizer approach.
Okay, that makes sense. Hopefully we'll be able to make some traction on it this quarter. If not, we can prioritize it higher next quarter and pull in more resources if needed. Thanks, Ian.
No problem.
Next up is data replication. We deprioritized this for the quarter, so I don't think we need any status update here. I'm going to go ahead and clear you from this, Brad. We can pick it up next quarter if needed. Okay, so we're done with the status updates. We've got about 40 minutes left in the meeting. Let's continue through. Sorry, what was that?
Chakri, can I give the update on the flex volume reconstruction?
Oh, awesome. Go ahead, Chakri.
Yeah. So actually, Shilpa is working on it. So she will be back here this week, and she'll be actively working. So I expect to see, we have the proposal, everything in there. So
okay.
Yeah, start working.
Cool. So expect a PR or a proposal within a week?
Yes.
Okay. Awesome. Thanks, Chakri.
Yep. Thanks, bro.
next up is PRs that need attention. Let's see, we've got expose storage metrics. Jing, was this you? Do you want to talk about it?
Yes. So basically, right now, a lot of user complain they don't have a good way of monitoring like how much storage used for their list of PV or PVC. So we're trying to expose the storage metrics for users through different ways. And some user use, for example, Kubernetes metric endpoint, or some user also use the Prometheus to retrieve their monitoring data. So we want to expose these kind of status, volume status metrics to also to Prometheus. I don't know how to pronounce that correctly. So the problem is right now, all the volume usage information, we collect them through the Kubernetes summary API. And but summary API, we don't have any information related to PV or PVC. So the plan is to add PVC reference information into the volume stats. So currently, if you go through summary API, you can see that there are pod stats, and inside of pod stats, you can see their volume stats to show each volume what are the usage. But it only contains a name that is, we call it outer spec name. That is the name you specified in the pod spec. So we want to change the volume manager data structure to be able to cache those PVC information and put it in the volume stats. And from summary API, we can expose those metrics to the endpoints. Is that clear, the idea?
I think the big idea makes sense. I'd like to look at this in detail to better understand exactly what the proposal is and if there's any alternatives that are being considered, particularly the fact that a change is required to volume managers in state memory. I wonder if there's any way around that. If we could reference the information directly from the API server, maybe. Other than that, I don't think there's any major concerns.
So what exactly are the FS stats? Is it just the name, or is there usage? I mean, what does this do beyond what's already bubbled up, like in undescribed, for instance?
So FS stats is the information related to usage, the capacity, the used bytes, the available bytes for each volume. But it does not have any information related to the PVC name.
It's all referenced by volume, by pod and the pod volume.
So it's telling how much capacity on the actual disk is
right,
remaining.
right.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
When is that gathered? Is that done by the kubelet?
Right now, yes, Kubernetes summary API collect those data for each volume inside of the pod, and by using the mount path, right, it use fs stat command to gather the information for that disk.
Okay, cool.
So here's a question. Do we really need to expose PVC as a first class item in this metrics API, considering that Kubelet is responsible for generating these metrics, and if a volume is not currently mounted, basically you're not going to get any updates for it. So if that's the case, if the updates only happen at the pod level for individual volumes inside of a pod, would that not be sufficient?
Yeah, I've been thinking about that, but so if no pod use that volume, currently we don't have a good way of keep track of the usage. So from what we currently available, so it's from the pod, and you can get collect those information. That is the easiest way. Otherwise, we have to use probably, let's say, another controller and list all the PV right now in the system, and then use a different way to collect those data.
Right. So given that the collection mechanism is basically going to be very closely tied to the pod.
Right.
If it's being referenced and the pod is scheduled, then information is going to be collected about the volume. Then do we really need to do what is being proposed in this proposal? Meaning, do we really need to expose PVCs as in the metrics API? Why not just leave it as is and add information about the outer volume spec inside the pod, or the outer volume name, sorry.
What you propose?
But
So I'm saying,
just to clarify, does the use case make sense, as in that we would like to expose metrics or on a PVC? Does that use case make sense?
So that's where I'm questioning it a little bit. I'm thinking, considering that the collection mechanism is not going to kick in until a pod references a PVC and gets scheduled, then instead of making the collection be at the PVC level, meaning every PVC has some information associated with it, which is not going to be the case since we're going through the metrics API. And what's being proposed here is to add PVCs as first-class members of the metrics API. Instead of doing that, what I'm proposing is you already have pods there in the metrics API, and pods report information, metrics about the pod. You could extend that to just update.
Oh yeah, I got you. Actually, the proposal is extend that. It's not a new API for PVC as a first class.
Okay, then I think I need to review the.
So the proposal is, so what you're saying is already being done, as in we expose pod metrics, and in the pod metrics we also expose, as part of that, the volume metrics for everything that's attached. The proposal is to additionally tag those volume metrics with the PVC information, so that on the other side, when we query, we have enough information. We can go from a PVC and then figure out what other corresponding stats.
Got it.
Yeah, right.
We're just lacking information right now to support something like kubectl describe PVC or kubectl top PVC.
Okay. Would it be sufficient to say for 1.8 that we go with the non-controversial, let's just get the metrics out there, and then in a subsequent quarter we can consider adding in the reference information back to the PVC?
Yeah, sure. So right now the current proposal does not cover, like, we are adding add any new API for doing this. It's
Let's
basically
do that. Is the user experience completely unusable without the PVC reference information?
You can't support the use case we described.
Could you expand on that?
So there is no way to get usage information for a PVC. That's the use case. The only way to do that would be to determine which pod the PVC is attached to, and then go look at the pod spec, the metrics for that pod, and go find the corresponding volume.
I think that would be sufficient. At least we have some information being surfaced to the end user. They have to do a little bit more work to tie it back together to exactly which PVC it may be. But for this quarter, we can say we're surfacing the information, and then in a subsequent quarter, we can go ahead and tackle the problem of figuring out how to give a good reference back to the PVC.
Right, that already exists. So
okay.
you can, if you do kubectl top pod, or you just get the pod metrics today from, Heapster or wherever, you already have the volume metrics in there. And if you know which volume, corresponds to the PVC you're interested in, you can get that.
For top, I don't think we have any volume information actually. For kubectl top right now,
Okay. Okay.
But we can
the
add
metrics
that.
API exposes it. I didn't look at that. Yeah.
So only the kubelet like summary API.
Summary API exposes it. Okay.
Endpoint, summary API endpoint will show that. Yeah. But we can add information to kubectl top, so we can also add volume information there.
I think that would be great if we could just do that for 1.8. The reason I want to avoid doing this, the rest of this work for this quarter, is because screwing with the volume managers in memory cache is...
No. I mean, we have to change. We need to add information there. Otherwise, all of these use cases won't be accomplished.
Right, and I think my concern is that since that's a bigger change, it could potentially destabilize the volume layer, and the value add here is not necessarily clear to me, which is why I'm hesitant. I think if we have volume usage information being surfaced, and it sounds like it's already being surfaced in the at the metrics layer, it's just not being shown in kubectl. If we
it's showing in the, but there's no information related to PV or PVC at all. It is showing through the summary API, but it's just the volume auto spec name there, and usually user want to like monitor a list of PV or PVC's usage, so they can have some event triggering it's out of disk or close to the capacity. Right now, they don't have a way. Even with summary API, you cannot get that information.
So once the proposal that you have here is complete, would you be able to do something, a command from kubectl that'll give you information directly given a PVC name?
It's possible, and also most of the users not use like kubectl way. They are using like the directly retrieve data from those metrics, like metrics endpoint or parameters. So they are not like kubectl is like interactive way of users to check the status, but for their like monitoring agent to do something, right? They use, but any use cases, we have to add information, this PVPC information into the volume manager, so we can be able to query them.
Yeah.
I don't think it will like make volume manager like vulnerable. We add some information, it could be just empty there. And we are not saying we'll fail because of those information empty. We are not changing any like workflow or logic in volume manager.
Okay.
So if you're nervous about this, why don't we push to have this committed sooner than later? I mean, we're nervous about every feature, every release, and it becomes a problem at the end of the release. But if we did get in there earlier, we have time to gain confidence.
Yeah. I'm also not certain of what, like, if this is absolutely strictly necessary, right? Is there any other way that we can get around this, or are we like patching this together with the limitations of what is currently available?
So I did a little bit like work around finding ways, but it seems like that's what we need to do. And so I think in the proposal, I list some like options, our current monitoring options, and why we need this. And there are quite some users like in GitHub issue mentioned they really need such things to monitor this. Yeah.
We have requests for similar features too. So this is a
Okay.
feature.
And to be clear, Brad, is the request simply to have information about a particular volume pod, usage information about a particular volume inside a pod, or is it that once you have that information, you also want to quickly be able to reference which PV it belongs to?
Well, our most basic use case is notifying the end user when their database volume starts to fill up.
Right.
That's the end result of what we wanted.
So if basically this third column of information was not available, and you basically had volume stats per volume per pod, would that be sufficient to capture that use case?
I don't know. I need to go read through.
Because if that's the case, then I'd like to say, let's start with that. And if that's not sufficient, then we can add this in. But I think based on what you guys are saying, and I haven't been looking very closely at this design. It may be the case that that's not sufficient. Why don't you guys hold a longer meeting for this, and you could do an in-depth design review, and we can take it from there. Would that be okay, Jing?
Yes. I will organize a meeting early next week. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. We can take it there. Thank you.
Okay.
Balu, you added a vSphere?
Yes. So I have a new PR out for the vSphere Cloud Provider refactoring. And then Zing has already taken a look at it, and then she's given an LGTM from her side. But then I need a couple of reviews from other people as well. So unless I get an LGTM from them, I don't think it gets merged.
Are you touching any non-vSphere code?
No.
Okay. And the rest of the vSphere team has okayed it?
Yes.
Cool.
So we had an internal review, and then we got an LGTM from all of them.
Okay. And have you done enough regression testing to ensure that you're not going to be breaking backwards compatibility or introducing new regressions?
Yes, we have done that. Yes.
Okay.
What is this, metrics for vSphere?
It's not the metrics, it's just the entire vSphere Cloud Provider refactoring. So previously we had the code all at one place. So what we have done is we have added a new framework which just does the management across virtual machines, data stores, and also the storage policy management.
Is there a functional change here, or is there just to clean it up?
It's just cleaning up.
And are you looking for somebody outside of vSphere to take a look at it for a sake of sanity checking, or do you just need an approval?
I think Zing has already reviewed it. She has taken a look at it. And then I'm just looking for an approval if possible.
Okay.
It's also better if somebody can do a sanity check as well.
Okay. In terms of approvals, anybody from the vSphere's owner list can approve it. But if you do need a sanity check, then you can ping probably any of us, me or Brad or anybody else on this group directly on Slack, and we can take a look.
Does the reviewer get a free license? It's tough to review this stuff when you don't have a vSphere instance, you know?
Balu, maybe you could talk to Brad offline and Brad could review it if you get the appropriate.
Are there any new tests that need to be created for this refactoring?
Nope, since it's not adding any new functionality. So whatever tests are there, they've just modified it to make sure that it calls the new framework. So there's nothing new functionality that's added.
Okay. If you guys are comfortable with it, I think whoever reviews it from this SIG is probably going to, other than just take a sanity check, is probably just going to sign off on it. Ultimately, it is going to be your responsibility to ensure that this code is working and that it doesn't break anything. This is part of the whole let's get volume plugins out of tree so that the SIG is not responsible for reviewing them. Because even today, it's exactly like Aaron said and Brad, they're both alluding to, we can review it in terms of just looking at the code and making sure things kind of make sense. But ultimately, whether it works or not, we don't have the resources to test that and to verify it. So we're going to have to leave that to you and your judgment.
Sure, makes sense. Yeah.
Okay, so one of us will take a look at it. I'll take a note to take a pass.
And then I have one more request. So can this, once it's merged into the master, can we cherry pick this into 1.7 release?
You want to backport this to 1.7?
Yes.
So backporting features to previous releases has a relatively high bar in terms of what is allowed in or not. Technically, you're only allowed to backport bug fixes. This, considering it is a major refactor, would be harder to justify unless you can give a list of bugs that it's fixing and prove that you can't backport those bugs alone, if that makes any sense.
The thing is that since you're just touching the vSphere code, right, isn't that a consideration for backporting?
I mean, that's kind of the problem here, right? It's checked in tree, so the policies that apply to in tree apply to this code. Arguably, yes, it only applies to this code, only touches vSphere, and if it breaks vSphere, it's only going to break vSphere, and we're okay with that. But if you really strongly feel that there is bugs that are being fixed here and that's absolutely required, you're the owner of this code and you can push for that, and then it'll be up to the branch manager to accept it. But in general, refactors get pushed back because they're not supposed to get patched back to previous releases. They're not strictly fixing bugs.
Okay.
Okay, we can take that conversation offline if you'd like. Next up,
thanks.
Fiber Channel Volume Plugin.
Yes. So this PR supports WWID as a new volume identifier, same as existing WWN plus LUN. So I already proposed the code and got LGTM from Fami. So now I'm waiting approval from the PR. So for the PR. So can anyone from SIG Storage help to approve this PR?
Waman, do you mind taking a look at this?
So I will tell me, but I cannot approve this because this has an API change. It's up to the top approvers.
One question about this is it doesn't look like this work was tracked on the storage SIG. Is there a feature repo bug open for this?
It's not. So should I open feature repo for this PR?
I think unfortunately we are too late for that.
I don't know if it's a
Can this be
full-blown.
categorized as a bug fix?
Well, it's adding some support for.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like a new field on the volume, on the fiber channel volume. That would be a feature. It's not like a new volume plugin, or it's not some extensive rewrite of the volume plugin.
Right. It's extending the functionality of the existing volume plugin. Okay, ignoring the process part of it. So it sounds like Wamin is saying that you need approvers from the API to take a look at it. So do we want to pull in like Tim or?
Yeah, Tim will be great. And there's another one open against iSCSI. We add another field API change.
Okay.
So if Tim can take a look at both PRs, and we already reviewed these PRs, so Tim can take a further look and if possible, make an approval.
Hey, so what was the purpose of these fields?
So for the WWID, there's a Red Hat documents made statements that worldwide names, which is being used by the fiber channel volume, is going to be deprecated in the future. And worldwide IDs are going to be the new schema. So this PI just addressed as potential future change.
Okay, so we're anticipating a future bug and fixing it ahead of time.
Yeah, it's already being used, by the way. So so Red has support both www names and the www.IDs.
I don't see the types.go file in here. Am I missing something? Oh, never mind. There it is. Okay. We will poke Tim to take a look at this.
Thank you.
This will be great until the universe-wide ID comes along.
So the security numbers.
All right. Next up, we have add local storage support in quota. What do you want to talk about this?
Yeah, so this is about handling overlay and scratch request regarding to resource quota. The problem here is that there is some complexity come from the fact that we can have different setups for our node. So either we have one partition or two partitions. If there's only one partition, so everything requested from user, whether it's a container overlay or empty dir, it's charged from the storage scratch, the scratch space. If there are two partitions, then the container overlay comes from the storage overlay and the empty dir comes from storage scratch. So these are kind of two ways we want to go, but this is totally different user experience for handling storage quota. So we want to make a decision on how to handle this. I think there is a issue on that. If you scroll down, there is an issue from Jing. Yeah, this one. It's been around for a week. This is blocking resource quota on local storage as well as the downward API.
Okay. Jing, does this? Have you taken a look at this?
I discussed with Jing offline, and seems she's going to talk about this with Wish today.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, I didn't unmute myself. So yes, so this proposal basically have two options, and one is just have one quota type for local storage. The other, we support two different quota for local storage. One is mainly for empty dir or scratch. The other is overlay, and both have their pros and cons. So we want to have some feedback, and I will discuss fish too. So anyone may use this feature and can let us know what's a better way of setting it up. So we need to decide which one we want to use. Either we only support one quota for local storage, scratch space, or we support two type of quota.
Okay. I think, again, on an issue like this where you have multiple options and you're not sure which one to proceed with, instead of throwing an email out and hoping that people will take a look at it and getting some response, just set up an hour meeting with the storage SIG. And when folks show up, introduce them to what the problem is, introduce what alternatives you're considering, and hopefully that'll help people have the context to give input, and then we can go from there. Would that be okay?
Yes. So after today, I will see whether we need to set it up a meeting maybe early next week or.
I think that would be great. Okay. Next up, Vlad has a cherry pick.
Yeah, so based on the conversation you just had earlier, I think we can skip this.
Okay.
We have something merged in master right now, but it's not a breaking fix. It was mostly improvements. So out of respect for the cherry pick process, I'll just withdraw this.
Awesome. All right. Thanks, Vlad.
No, not a problem.
Steve, you have 833.
Yeah, so 833 talks about the improvement on flex volume in order to support external plugins like Rook. So one thing that Rook kind of does differently is that we actually Rook creates extend the custom resources to talk to the actual Rook controller backend. Now, if we're to do this with flex volume, we need a consistent. I couldn't find a consistent way to generate a Kubernetes client in order to create those CRDs resources. Looks like you're pointing at it that Legit suggested to copy the service account, but I'm still not able to get the actual Kubernetes API IP because and this is to contract an auto cluster client.
Okay. Is the API, is IP an environment variable anywhere possibly?
It is an environment variable when it comes from daemon set, but if I were to use that's MIP, I don't think that will be writable when the flex driver command runs because that runs outside. That doesn't run in a container or.
Could you have the daemon set do that as part of deployment? Basically inject the IP?
Yes, but that thing, like the IP that it's injecting is a service, is the network service IP.
It's not routable, Saad, from.
It's not routable from. Sorry. Yeah.
It's not routable from the host is the issue.
Oh, I see. It is a service IP, and when you try to access it from the node host machine directly, it is not routable.
There was I saw a document on the Kubernetes documentation about how to access a cluster, and on the page they're talking about having proxies and stuff like that. Have you guys looked at that page?
Have not, but we have very little control on what we can set up on the host.
Yeah. So, but maybe I don't know if there's anything on that page that might be useful. I'll link it in the doc.
Great. And then it's also stashing the service key seems a little fragile. If master, if you're an HA cluster or whatever, master changes, not clear how we update that.
Hi, this is Chakri actually. So is there any way actually you can use Flex just as an adapter and use your control logic into some other pod using which you can access the API server?
Yeah, if we were willing to stash credentials and API endpoints and all that stuff, which was an explicit kind of goal to move away from that.
No, sorry, I missed that one.
You're saying have the flex volume, instead of using the Kubernetes API, have it use our own API server. Is that correct?
Use the flex volume to make a call to your server, and your server will actually kind of proxy it to the Kubernetes API server. So all the calls will actually route it to your server, and your server actually, if it needs to talk to the Kubernetes service, then your service can actually run it as a pod, and you will have access to the service accounts. One thing with service accounts is even if you slap in something and try to hack it, even though the IP is routable, service accounts can be recyclable. So in that case, again, everything will break.
Yeah, the context here is that we actually don't have an API server. The Rook is written as a controller in Kubernetes, so there's no API to call. Which kind of the original PR on this has a bunch of context on this, if you'd like to read it. But there is no. But the idea is that the flex volume, or if the in-tree volume, the same approach, they would both create an instance of a CRD, and that's how our API or our operator picks it up.
I think the problem here always comes down to discovery, and the approach you guys are trying to look at is trying to make it as simple as possible to
the user
discovery automatically. And when you start going out of tree, you're going to need to discover something, whether that's an intermediate tree proxy pod, like what Chakri suggested. If you do that, you still need to be able to discover the service that that pod exposes, versus discovering the IP proxy or the API server directly. I'm not sure what a good answer for that is yet.
Yeah, I mean, we're almost out of time. I don't wonder if we should try to find a slot to kind of discuss this. And
Yeah.
given that we're, SIG storage is making flex volumes the story going forward, we probably want to think through some of these scenarios around deployment and versioning as well.
Yeah, how about let's set up a meeting next week. We can pull in Chakri, me, you, Jordan, and maybe I could grab
Steve.
Tim as well.
Yeah, Steve too.
Okay.
Okay. Saad, do you want to set it up? Do you want us to set it up?
You can go ahead and set it up, or either way is fine, really.
Okay. Why don't you set up? I think you know
Sure.
all the involved parties.
Okay, let me do that.
Okay.
All right, we are out of time, and unfortunately, we did not get to the block storage support. Aaron, do you want to give a quick update here, or should we punt it again?
I think it's to a point where it just needs the PR review. I don't think we need to formally review it on this call, given we had those extra calls out of band from this meeting. I would appreciate feedback. It's PR number 805 if people want to take the time, but otherwise, if I don't get any more feedback, I'm going to move forward for approval and implementation.
Okay. I think that's fair. And if anybody is interested in that design, please take a look at it. And we'll move forward with getting that approved, and then implementation will begin.
Right, thanks.
Final item we're over time now. We can punt this to next time, but if anybody has thoughts on the face-to-face meeting, I was thinking end of August or early September. It sounds like Dell is volunteering to host in Santa Clara or Austin. If anybody has thoughts on where or when, you can add a comment here. We can discuss it next time. All right, folks, thank you for your time. Any other questions, comments, concerns anybody wants to bring up? All right, take care. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Thanks.